What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my top 12 defense rankings for Week 7 for fantasy football. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe. Any questions, drop them down below. But let's just dive right into Tier 1 here, and my number one defense for Week 7 is going to be the Buffalo Bills. They're going up against the Titans. The Titans have the lowest implied point total this week. This is not a good offense. This is definitely a matchup we want to attack. Defenses going up against the Titans have actually scored the most fantasy points per game. And then we look at the Bills. They're not some sort of elite defense. They're not like a team that you can plug and play every single week with a ton of confidence, but they're 11th in points per game. So definitely a serviceable option. And I think they're a great option this week going up against this Titans offense. Then my other tier 1 defense is going to be the Broncos going up against the Saints. I thought the Broncos were a pretty decent option in Week 6. It didn't necessarily pan out, but I think I'm fine going back to the well here on the Broncos. They are 4th in points per game for defenses. You look at the Saints here, they have the second fewest implied point total. They're likely going to be without Derek Carr. And then it seems like they're going to be without both their top weapons in Chris Olave with a concussion, and then Rashid Shaheed with some sort of new knee injury. So, I mean, this could be like a completely unrecognizable Saints offense this week. I will say the Broncos corners are both banged up. I believe Surtain and Riley Moss are both injured. I think Riley Moss was limited today. Surtain was a non-participant. So it seems like both sides are going to be banged up, but we're pretty much going up against here like the Saints second teamers for the Broncos. Even if the Broncos secondary is banged up, I still think they're a fine option this week. So they're my other tier 1 play. Then shifting into tier 2, we're actually going to stick around in the same matchup. I have the Saints on the other side going up against the Broncos. The Saints defense has been solid, pretty much excluding last week. They're 9th in points per game amongst defenses. They are 2nd in interceptions. They are 3rd in forced fumbles. So definitely an opportunistic defense going up against Bo Nix. The Broncos have the 7th fewest implied points this week. So I think a nice matchup. Don't think it's going to be super high scoring here. I think it's probably going to be a pretty gross, grimy game script for both these teams. So I think both defenses are solid plays, Saints and Broncos. Then moving on within this tier, I have the Jets going up against the Steelers. It seems like the Steelers might be making a quarterback change here. Reports are that Russ is going to be getting the first team snaps, so it's definitely possible he takes over, replaces Justin Fields at the quarterback position. Now, I don't think Fields is perfect, and maybe I'm a little bit biased because I'm a Bears fan. I do like Justin Fields. I want him to have success, and fantasy-wise, making fantasy content, like Justin Fields is a lot more fun option at the quarterback position than Russell Wilson. But I do think Fields could bail out this offense occasionally with his legs, where the offensive line is not good, the weapons are not good, Arthur Smith is not a good offensive coordinator, and there were moments where Fields could make plays with his legs. It gave them, an added element in the red zone, and I just don't know if Russ is going to have it. Is he probably the more accurate passer? Sure. Is he maybe a little bit more decisive as a passer? Maybe. But I do think Russ is probably the more desirable option for opposing defenses. Maybe I'm off base, and you guys can let me know down below in the comments if you do think Russ is the better option, for opposing defenses. But I'd feel a little bit more scared with Justin Fields at quarterback compared to Russell Wilson, especially making his debut. So I think this Jets defense is solid. The Steelers have the 6th fewest implied points, so Vegas doesn't think they're going to put up a big total. I think the Jets are a nice play. And then in that same matchup, I have the Steelers going up against the Jets. Now, I'm a little bit more hesitant with the Davante Adams trade because obviously that gives the Jets offense a little bit more firepower. But before that trade, the Jets were tied for the 2nd fewest implied points. I'm guessing that's going to change with Adams coming in here. But you look at the Steelers defense, they've been solid. They're 5th in points per game amongst defenses. They're going to be home against the Jets in this matchup. And it is Davante Adams' first game. I think obviously him and Rodgers are going to have the chemistry, but I don't know if this offense is going to be firing on all cylinders like maybe they would be in the next few weeks. So I still think the Steelers are a solid play. This Jets offense hasn't put it together yet. You're kind of just hoping that the offense doesn't just go nuclear after the Davante Adams trade. And then pivoting into tier 3, going to start off this tier with the Chargers going up against the Cardinals. Chargers defense has been very solid. They are 7th in points per game. This Cardinals offense has been pretty up and down. They've had a few surprising, big performances, but they've scored less than 15 points in 3 of their last 4 games. You also have Marvin Harrison Jr., who left week 6 with a concussion. There was no guarantee he's going to be playing here. And without Marv, that wide receiver room is looking very rough. So I think the Chargers are a really strong play this week. Then I have the Eagles going up against the Giants. I'm not blown away with this Eagles defensive unit, but they've had back-to-back really strong matchups. Defenses going up against the Giants have scored the 6th most points per game. The Giants have the 10th fewest implied points. And then you look at last week, like I said, the Eagles had a good matchup going up against the Browns. They recorded 5 sacks, so they were able to take advantage of a favorable matchup. I think they can do that again here going up against the Giants. I guess the concern would be if they get, Malik Neighbors back, that would be their best weapon. But they had a great matchup the Giants did last week against the Bengals. They couldn't capitalize, so I think the Eagles are a fine play. The team that did capitalize on that Giants matchup last week, the Bengals, are going up against the Browns. Now, this is definitely not betting on a good defense. This is betting on a really good matchup. The Bengals have the 4th fewest points per game. Their second best game of the season was last week, week 6, against the Giants. The Browns here just seem like a prime matchup. Defense is going up against them, are averaging the 5th most points per game. As I'm recording this right now, I'm actually finding out that Amari Cooper has just been traded to the Bills. So that's obviously another hit to the Browns. I think you can make an argument now for the Bengals being up in tier 2. Would probably want to sit on that a little bit, but you think about this Browns offense. Maybe they get Nick Chubb back this week, but Nick Chubb coming off a serious knee injury. They've already been terrible. The offensive line is bad. Deshaun Watson is terrible. I know Amari Cooper hasn't been amazing, but he's been their top weapon. So now they lose Amari Cooper. This is a sorry-looking offense, and I think the Bengals just became an even better play after that trade news. Then looking at tier 4 here, going to start it off with the Vikings taking on the Lions. And this is a tough spot because you have a defense that has been unbelievably elite, especially for fantasy, going up against one of the best offenses in the NFL. So starting off here from the Vikings perspective, they are number 1 in points per game. And it's not like they're number 1 beating up on bad offenses, bad quarterbacks. They have played the 49ers, pretty much shut them down. They shut down the Texans. They gave Green Bay fits. They gave Aaron Rodgers and the Jets fits. So this has been a very, very good defense, very opportunistic. They're number 1 in interceptions. That's even coming off the bye. They're number 1 in defensive touchdowns. They're 3rd in sacks. But like I said, this is a very good Lions offense. Defense is going up against them. Have scored the 3rd fewest points per game. So it's kind of just like which team is going to win out. Are the Lions going to produce even in a bad matchup? Are they going to crumble to this Vikings defense? Or maybe it's somewhere in between where the Vikings are still playable, but not like the elite option that we've seen early on in the season. And then we have the Colts going up against the Dolphins. Colts defense, not some sort of elite unit, but the Dolphins have the 9th fewest implied points. Defenses going up against the Dolphins are averaging the 3rd most points per game. They're still not going to have Tua back this week. This offense has looked pretty much incompetent without Tua, in the 2-3 games without him. I will say, though, they're coming off the bye. You still have good weapons. I would expect this offense to look a little bit better. I don't think they're going to be great. I don't think they're, going to light up this Colts defense, but I don't think they're going to be quite as sorry as they looked in the 3 games without Tua, and I guess the portion of that 4th one where he left with injury. 2 more defenses here. We have the Packers going up against the Texans. And for the Packers here, this is a defense that has been pretty impressive for fantasy. 2nd in points per game. They are 1st in fumble recoveries. They are 3rd in interceptions. They just don't have a great matchup here against the Texans. I don't think it's as scary as a matchup without Nico Collins, but still a good offense, good quarterback play. They still have Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, so kind of similar to the Vikings. It's a good defense, but in a not-so-great matchup. And then the final team here, this is a not-so-great defense in a pretty good matchup. Jaguars taking on the Patriots. Now, I do think this Patriots offense is less of a smash spot with Drake May playing quarterback, but they're still only 4th fewest in implied points. Defenses going up against the Patriots have scored the 4th most points per game. And even though May played pretty well, he still had 3 turnovers, did another fumble outside of Drake May. He was sacked 4 times. So there are still going to be opportunities for this Jaguars team to turn them over, put pressure on the quarterback. This Patriots offensive line is not great. So even though I don't love the Jaguars defense, I still think this is a good enough matchup where they are playable. And then a couple of honorable mentions here. We have the Rams going up against the Raiders. This Rams defense has not been good, but this Raiders offense is probably even worse. The quarterback play is terrible, whether it's Minshew or O'Connell. They just traded Devontae Adams. You have like Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers banged up. It's just not a good unit. So I do think the Rams are playable. And then you have the 49ers going up against the Chiefs. 49ers defense, very solid, one of the better units in the NFL. And the Chiefs offense really has not been good. I will say there is just something a little bit uneasy on like trying to target a defense going up against Patrick Mahomes. Maybe I shouldn't have that feeling because if you just look at this season, like this has not been a scary matchup, but I don't think they're like an elite play this week. But that's going to wrap it up for my top 12. Let me know your thoughts down below. Any questions, drop them down below. I'll get back to every single person. But thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.